All right. Thanks for listening to our personal money segment delivered to you by PAX Financial Group. The content has come from working with thousands of families over the years and research that we've done helping people just make better money decisions. And we just believe that if you commit to making prudent financial decisions, you will live a more meaningful life. And so my name is Daryl Lyons. I'm the CEO and co-founder of PAX Financial Group. I'm certainly excited to be with you today. I'll introduce you to your guide over the next few minutes. So today's guest I'm happy to have is Brad. Brad Hallett he comes from Minneapolis, Minnesota, but he's originally from San Antonio, Texas. So we brought him back to the South just in time for the summer heat. And he is a trust expert. But today's topic is an interesting topic, the top 5 reasons why you may need a trust. And so we're going to do this in a top 5 countdown. And so we will start with number 5. And you might need a trust if, number 5, you want control of your assets should you become incapacitated. So Brad, tell us more about what that means.
Sure. So essentially what it comes down to is for those individuals that may unfortunately go through either a personal accident or have a health issue and they can no longer talk to their loved ones, having a trust in place, specifically a trust where maybe the spouse maybe is a trustee or maybe a trusted family member is a trustee, that individual can take immediate action in regards to financial needs.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if somebody's disabled, is that the same thing as incapacitated?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure I'm clear there. Number 4, giving to charities. How does a trust help facilitate giving to a 501c3 or a charity?
Sure. So some of us are familiar with the recent changes that occurred with the Secure Act. Probably one of the more, challenging changes was the elimination of the stretch IRA. And so what many people are doing right now is they're looking at their retirement accounts, specifically their IRAs and possibly even their 401ks. But we're looking for opportunities where we can help them pass on their assets to their descendants and be able to replicate the stretch IRA. And in doing so, possibly pick a charity. The strategy here is to create what's called a charitable remainder trust. It is a tax-free transfer, which is pretty exciting. Like I said, you can pick a charity of your choice. And then ultimately, you're going to be replicating the stretch IRA in the sense of the life expectancy, the lifetime of that beneficiary is essentially the life of the trust until that individual passes away, and then the remaining assets go to the charity.
Very helpful. Thank you. Number 3, you might want to use a trust if you want professional asset management. So tell us more about that.
Sure, absolutely. So for those individuals that may have either complex assets, and you don't necessarily have to have complex assets, you want to be in a position where you can take advantage of professional guidance, but more specifically, the benefits of working with a fiduciary.
That's good. And so, for example, you might have a granddaughter that is on drugs or making poor decisions and be able to dictate how that money flows to that person so that way it doesn't accentuate bad behavior. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. So people may have heard of what's called the spendthrift trust, or more specifically, spendthrift clause inside of a trust that helps the trustee make decisions in regards to making distributions to beneficiaries.
Okay, that's very helpful. I've seen that before. Number 2, as we count down to number 1, number 2 is creditor protection. So tell me more about that. I understand that lawsuits are today's America's favorite pastime event that surpasses baseball now. So tell us more about creditor protection with trust.
Sure, absolutely. So for those individuals that are looking to protect their hard-earned assets, more specifically the inheritance that they'd like to pass on to their descendants, take, for example, if you have a specific family member or family members that are either in a profession, like let's say they're a physician, it could be somebody who even owns a business. By putting the assets inside of a trust and passing those assets on to those descendants through a trust, they're protecting their inheritance for those individuals from creditors.
Very good. And the last one, number 1, avoiding probate. So tell us, is probate a problem? And if so, how does a trust help us avoid probate?
Sure. So probate in and of itself is not a problem. However, here's what's interesting about probate. It can be very clumsy. It can be costly. And more specifically, it can be incredibly stressful on descendants, individuals who are held responsible for settling an estate. If somebody does a proactive an estate plan, they're in a position where they will have a trust in place to take care of those respective assets without having to go through probate. Like I mentioned, probate's not in and of itself a bad thing, but if you can proactively put yourself in a position where your assets are protected, but also put in a position where they can quickly move to their descendants without having to go through probate, that creates a tremendous amount of opportunity for those individuals.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's good information. Hey, this was good. I know we compressed a lot into a little amount of time. And of course, if they being the listeners and viewers, if they need specific information, they can always contact you very simply, brad@paxfg.com. So thank you again for sharing that information today, Brad.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Hey, be safe out there and remember to rest at a fast pace. Thanks again.